ones that have been through it, then they kind of know that. But the ones that haven't been through it before, what will happen is that they'll try to publish, because the reward mechanism is very geared within the university towards publication. And the tech transfer office will be sprinting to try to catch up to that deadline, right, and do the disclosures necessary to put a stake in the ground to say, okay, we've got something that's protectable and we're going to do a disclosure. And so it really depends upon the tech transfer office to kind of be integrated enough into the faculty doing research that could go to invention and patents to have that process kind of, so you're not, you know, always working in a crisis. So it really depends on the tech transfer office to establish that relationship with the faculty, and the faculty to realize that publishing something means I lose the rights, and therefore I've got this checkbox to do the disclosure before I publish. And sometimes they're so concerned about publishing that that's not very important to them. So that's just kind of an educational thing, a cultural thing that has to get developed.
So let me highlight that in my conceptualization of what we're doing. That would be the bottom right part of this triangle in terms of the tech transfer, capture of IP. There's a second way that we help on IP matters in the area, and that's under the convener category. I lead an entrepreneurial law clinic out of the law school, which has 16 student attorneys, all third years, to provide free legal help to startups in the area. As part of that, we do a lot of soft IP work, such as independent contractor agreements that transfer the IP and lock it into the company. And we're also part of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office's pilot program with respect to patent work. So I don't want to overstate that we handled 2 patent clients this year, so it's not like we're making a major dent. But the Entrepreneurial Law Clinic is very helpful. Again, lower the frictions for entrepreneurs in the area, make it very easy for them to get access to good content, mentors, information spillovers, and then from a legal perspective, help them get organized right, so that at the point in which they get a funding event, or if they get some traction with a product, then things are, from the legal perspective, don't get sideways.
Well, we in Santa Cruz, we have a lot of similar things. We have a new tech meetup. We have a tech raising, which is similar to the entrepreneur, you know, kind of a hackathon-ish thing that you guys do. I think listening to you, the difference is that our stuff is all separate, and it's not, it doesn't involve, it's just started with private companies. The university's not really involved, although some students come, and I don't think the city or the chamber is really involved. How did you guys all get together? I think working together you can do a better job. Do you think that's true? And
I absolutely do. A couple ways to cut that. One is, let me just be clear. If you go back to that, you know, awful picture that I have of all the people doing things across entrepreneurship, I am not entrepreneurship at CU. I'm part of a team that happens to pass the ball pretty well across the campus, and then when I compare ourselves to other universities, we pass it really well. We actually like each other. We invite each other to things. So that's good. In terms of what happened, you know, I honestly think that in some respects the Confederate approach that we had allows for a lot of experimentation. So where my efforts, you know, to be candid, came out of is I joined CU 8 years ago. I went around in the entrepreneurial community and I said, you know, I'm Brad Bernthal, I'm from CU, I'm involved in the entrepreneurship scene, and here's literally what I heard. Tim, you can, and Eric, tell me if this is wrong. It was, that's great. It would be great if CU would do something useful. This is a world-class place to start a business. Get on board. And that's not, I mean, there's often more colorful language associated. And so the tenor was very adversarial, I think, in many respects. Now, there's some sectors where it was different. But that was definitely the tenor in the software information technology sector. So we started hosting the New Tech Meetup. And then we came up with this idea to have something called Entrepreneurs Unplugged. It's a very simple format. We bring a serial entrepreneur to campus on about a monthly basis. Once a year, we'll have a national figure. Ted Turner, Charlie Ergen's been through the program. But the meat and potatoes is really serial entrepreneurs or regional entrepreneurs. Have them tell their stories in an actor's studio type format, Q&A for about an hour, 15 minutes of public Q&A. And that's been another reason for people to continually come to the campus. And you know, after 3 or 4 years, it's amazing how suddenly people started to feel invested in this. And I'll tell you the other thing that's been enormously powerful is the mentorship program through the New Mentor Challenge. is that connection between students and people in the community has really changed the tenor too. So I don't think there's been just one thing, but there's been several little things that cumulatively over time have really moved the meter. I could go on, but anyway, I think that's probably right. The last thing I'll say, and I don't know where you guys are on state funding, we are a public university, a private university with a public mission, essentially. I mean, we are something about 4% state funding and going to zero. It's just the way it is here. If there's an advantage, it's that we've never, at least in recent years, have not been well funded anyway, and so we're feeling less pain than some of the California schools. I think at the end of the day, entrepreneurship and innovation has got to be part of the funding solution. Now, how that's exactly going to work, I'm still not quite clear, but we're not going to be able to jack tuition forever. We're tapping out donors. There's got to be some new revenue streams. I mean, grants are a real problem. The CS department right now for grants, I believe, of $3 million or north, the national acceptance rate is less than 1%. So we've got to find some new revenue streams. I think this is part of it. I also think it's enormously impactful in terms of outreach. There's lots of things that we haven't solved. I don't have a clear vision on that, but I think it's going to be part of it.
Brad, we've got 4 minutes, and I'd like to be sure you should connect with our Dean of Engineering. Art, if you would take a shot at that.
Well, I just want to make one comment, was when you showed your ring there, it seemed like everything was university oriented. So I think that is really the message that I get from you, is that we need more on our campus, more activities, and it's, we are thinking and working toward that. But the question I had for you was, you just described the tech transfer office at the university. How big is that, and what sort of,
Well, Kate Tallman will be addressing the group this afternoon, and she runs that. So you probably better, I've asked her to be prepared to talk about, how do you set up a campus tech transfer office? Mm-hmm. What are the issues? And so, I think I would hold the questions for that, and we should have some more time this afternoon.
Yeah, and I should be clear, that campus-centric perspective is probably like the famous New Yorker cover of the New Yorker's version of the world, right? There's all sorts of things in this area that are not listed on that map. Probably most notably is the Techstars program, which was an accelerator. At the time it was established, Techstars and Y Combinator were two of the, really on the vanguard of the accelerator movement. Techstars has had wild success for the last 5 years. That's paid a lot of dividends in terms of visibility for Boulder. And, the Techstars now has accelerators in Boulder, New York, Seattle, Boston, and they just opened a London accelerator and a Chicago accelerator. So suddenly Boulder's in the conversation with a lot of larger places that otherwise we wouldn't be part of. So I don't want to overstate the university, because this was a world-class startup scene before we became closely involved, but I think we've moved the meter and really helped enhance and expand the capacity of the scene.
Well, just a quick one. I was just at my uncle's funeral, 94. His whole career was Ames Research, kind of pre-Silicon Valley title. My son, 24, just graduated from Cal Berkeley. I'm watching him bump around. There's just a cultural shift in like 1.5 generations of the norm and the comfort zone was one career all in one place. And now, like, with our universities teaching students where you're being reinvented on a regular basis. Because that's a big part of this puzzle piece of what's the new norm.
I'm smiling because I don't know if anyone's seen me speak before, but this is literally the language that I use. The second, I think, very strong case for why we're teaching entrepreneurship in places like the law school, where we might get a few entrepreneurs, but by and large, that's not what we're getting, is that I think entrepreneurial mindsets, methodologies, and approaches to problem solving are going to be necessary in a world where you've got to reinvent yourself every 1 to 2 years. And for any of you who are lawyers, the legal profession is changing this way too. Because you're having to navigate conditions of uncertainty. And that's what entrepreneurs ultimately are very skilled at. So I think it's a powerful set of skills that we need to be teaching across campus. I'm glad to see us doing more of it, not just for the direct outcomes of building businesses, but because that mindset and skill set's important for the students. I totally agree.
Okay.